Hello. As you can tell, I made myself a new overlay that's all the way around this. I'm not quite finished with it yet, but I kind of like the look. I like the old screen look. I know it doesn't look maybe as clean and professional as a lot of other people's, but I kind of like it. And if you can tell, I have different, I have transitions now, so it'll go like this from fading into the different scenes. But I don't like my be right back screen. It's sufficient, but I'm probably going to change that in the future. And the transitions here that I did are going to be different. But as you can tell, I did post it, but I have the new drawings of me because I thought the old one, it was fine, but I felt like it was kind of soulless because of the way it just stared at the screen. I may have some more pictures of the little bear as well, the sad teddy bear. We'll see. But for now, this is the new overlay. And, sorry, excuse me. For now, this is the new overlay, and hopefully I don't have to change too much. I do want to change the transitions so they're going to be more interesting, but I'm not sure if I can pull that off yet, because I animate everything frame by frame, because I don't really have any fancy programs. And the few that I do have are on my computer, and I don't have time when I'm at home. I'm always working when I'm at home. But today we are going to be sculpting what is called the Tatzelwurm. I believe that's how you say it, Tatzelwurm. It's also called the Stollenwurm or the Stahlwurm. It is a dragon-like creature that is found in kind of the middle of Europe. It's noted like around Sweden, Austria, Germany, that kind of area. I think specifically says the Alpine region, but think Central Europe. And it's pretty basic in its description. It is a cat-headed serpent. There isn't a whole lot of specifics. Like, one of the things I noticed was that the description, particularly the number of legs, varies a lot in the imagery. And when I glanced at like some wiki pages for it, it varies. One of them had it having like almost centipede number of legs. You know, others it was like it had 6 legs, 2 legs, 4 legs. We're going with 2 legs. Sorry, just 2 in the front. And apparently, I couldn't find confirmation of this elsewhere, but from what I read, Tatzel means like paw or claws. So it's literally the clawed worm or the clawed dragon. So I'm going to be giving it 2 front legs with claws, hopefully, if I can pull that off. But that's the main description. It seems like there are some other regions where it may or may not have, like, poison breath, like a snake, or poison breath, or, sorry, poison bites, like a snake. It might be venomous. It varies according to region a little bit, and I think there are some accounts, if I could find. There was an account, I may or may not be able to find it. If I can't find it, we'll read it next time when I paint it. But I believe there was an account of someone who insisted that they found one, and I think that was what I pulled the image from, but I could be wrong. Or the thumbnail image, that is. Now, the thumbnail image, it had 4 legs, but I cropped it to make it fit what I'm doing. Because I like the imagery of it only having 2 in the front and making them very cat-like. Now, it is supposed to be scaled rather than furry, but I might add a little bit of furriness. So apparently the Switzerland version is Stollenwurm, because Stollen or Stall is like tunnel or cave or a mine. So it was believed that they would tunnel away almost like worms. And it's related to other similar snake and worm-like dragon creatures. Let me pull up more of my... I'm trying to find the account here. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other names. And yeah, the size varies. It could be tiny little, like 2 feet, or it could be like 8 feet long. Which, you know, I mean, with realistic reptilian creatures, that almost makes sense because a lot of reptiles continue to grow. throughout their whole lifespan. So, hypothetically, if a fantasy reptile could just continue to grow. Alright, we'll keep wrapping this here. Yeah, so the one in Austria and Bavaria is described as having poison breath, able to be lethal. And apparently it shrieks or whistles. I couldn't find a ton of info, but I mostly was attracted to doing this particular creature because I just liked the description, and I was debating about this and doing another like cryptid, but I asked one of my friends and she's like, no, do this one, it sounds interesting. So I was like, okay. I was leaning toward the Tatzelwurm anyway, but it was kind of more of an obscure thing, so I wasn't sure if it was the smartest thing to do. I like doing obscure stuff, but then people don't see the videos as much. Whenever I do popular creatures, it tends to pop off a lot faster. But I enjoy doing obscure stuff like this. And when I say obscure, I'm speaking from the perspective of an American. I don't know how common this is a creature like in Europe, but I at least know that I haven't heard a whole lot about it. But it seems to match a lot of your typical dragon legends, which does always raise the question. So many cultures across so many lands have so many legends of gigantic lizard-like beings. And I often wonder, like, that had to come from somewhere, you know? Sometimes I wonder, like, did they find dinosaur bones or something, and then the legends developed from that? A lot of mythology comes from misidentification. A lot of cryptids come from misidentification of other things. But it is unusual. It's kind of like with the Yeti. It's unusual that so many cultures separate from each other developed so many similar, not completely similar, but somewhat similar legends. Like if you compare Asian dragons to European dragons, they are a bit different. But they still have some commonalities between them. Oh, there we go. There's the accounts. Let's see. In early description, I'm just reading from Wiki right now. I know it's not the best source in the world, but let's see. Johann Jacob Wagner. I guess it's Johann Jakob. I don't know how to say Jacob in that accent. In 1680, he said that he had found a dragon-like creature. Interesting. There isn't much else to be said for that account, at least not here. I may have to go hunt that down for the next video when we do the painting. Cat-headed serpent, gray body, no legs. Yeah, see, I saw a couple that said they had no legs, and I thought that was interesting. Because in that sense, it's like, honestly, more like a snake. Because the cat-headedness makes me think of Asian dragons, because Asian dragons often have just a little bit of either a dog or a cat-like face, and then the reptilian-type body that's super long and windy, with a varying number of legs, so very similar. But this one, I thought there was an account. There is an account that says it has no legs. Let's see. The one, Mountain Frumsen, I'm probably butchering this. It was in Switzerland. It was alleged to measure 7 feet or more in length. And apparently it was drinking all the milk from cows before they could milk the cows. And after the creature was killed, so they killed something. That's interesting. What year was this? I think this is in the 1600s. I don't see a date on this. Because the next one's also in the 1600s, so I'm assuming 1600s. It is interesting that whenever there's a cryptid-like being that is spotted, the very first thing that people say is something terrible killed their livestock, which makes sense because, you know, I guess that would be your livelihood, especially in that time frame. And then as soon as one person cites something they don't understand, then an animal shows up dead, they immediately assume whatever that was killed the animal, even if it didn't. And I guess that kind of makes sense that it would always kind of take that route. But that is such a common thing for any sort of legend, is that it always goes after livestock and then typically children next. Which makes sense, because wild animals and beasts would do that. So sometimes I wonder if it's just a lot of very aggressive wild animals that get mislabeled. Alright, we're gonna wrap. Oh, there went my phone. Let's see. Yeah, so later analysis and reception here, I'm reading about that in the 1800s. They're saying probably just large snakes and so on, which is what most people would assume. But he's saying that possibly, you know, kind of like I was saying with the dragons, like, what were they, just really large lizards that people were misidentifying? That's what someone else is arguing. Let me see here. It is fascinating, though, when there's so many different sightings. Oh, here we go. There was another sighting. Again, the date's not mentioned. Johannes Bueller of Senwald Parish spotted a dragon with enormous head and 2 forelimbs. There we go. We got my 2 forelimbs description instead of the 4 legs. Was claimed to have been encountered by 70-year-old Johannes Egerter of Lienz. When it exhaled its breath, the man said he was overcome with headache and dizziness. So it literally breathes poison. So it's not like an adder. It's not like a snake. It literally breathes poison rather than biting, which is interesting. I know a lot of fantasy stuff like D&D uses breath weapons for dragons. All right. Looks like there's statues too, of statues of it in various places in Central Europe. I would love to travel someday and see castles and statues that are far older. I mean, I love America, but I would really like to travel to Europe sometime. I think that would be fun. Mostly just because I'd love to see old cities and statues and history pieces of things. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Later accounts. In 1779, a legend describes an encounter with the Tatzelwurm by the farmer Hans Fuchs. I don't know how to say that. According to the story, while in the mountains, he allegedly saw 2 of these creatures in front of him. Frightened for his life, he fled to his home and died of a heart attack from the experience. Supposedly, before he died, he told his family of the encounter, describing the creature as a 5 to 7 foot in length, serpent-like body, 2 clawed front legs, and a large feline-like head. So there we go. We have another 2 front legs. So I feel justified now in choosing to do 2 legs instead of 4. To Bernice Samuel Studer and Johann Rudolf Weiss, who contributed greatly to Swiss folklore, added to their knowledge of the Stollenwurm, which is the other name of something very similar. And all of them have heads that look like cats. No, he's claiming the word Stollen comes from short feet, or for having stubby little legs. And them being much smaller serpents. Interesting. But yeah, it's kind of, what's interesting when you go back far enough, it's kind of like when I was doing the thing on the basilisk or the cockatrice. There's so many conflicting legends that are similar and yet different. And all the accounts are slightly different. And the older a creature is, the more variable the accounts are. The more modern cryptids tend to be a little closer in description just because they haven't had time to diverge quite as much. But I do find it fascinating that you tend to get like regional legends, or even ones that go across, you know, the world to a degree that have very similar characteristics. I don't know. I always want to find an explanation, a logical explanation for everything, which we don't really have in most of these, which is probably why mythology always fascinates me. All right. All right, we're gonna cover the head now. And I did choose these eyes, like that. Falling under my glove. There we go. Because I figured cat eyes would be the most appropriate. Okay, so we might have to read this. So apparently Samuel Studer is the best knowledge of the Stollenworm. So I'm going to have to see if I can find some of his stuff to read next time. I didn't have the time that I wanted to research this because I was very busy at work the other night. Last night, and it was, most of my time was spent on work. I didn't have time to look stuff up, so. Okay, and his multiple eyewitness accounts were included. Let's see, some of them had a forked tongue, serpent-like but rather wide head with 2 stubby feet. Interesting. And then someone else claimed that it was small, hairy, and was carrying 10 young. Then someone else saw one. That's quite different. Yeah. So each of these are different. Like some of them are furry, some of them have but the consistent thing is that it seems to have an unusually shaped head that either reminds people of cats or is unusually broad for a snake. It has some form of legs, whether that's 4, 2, 6. It's got some form of legs, and the legs are a bit on the stubby side. And the size varies greatly, because the older ones seem to be multiple, you know. Then again, the older the account, I feel like it's kind of like fish stories, where the longer the story's been around, the more exaggerated it gets. It's kind of like when you play the telephone game. So it could also be that, and so the more recent sightings, they're much smaller. Yep, measuring... I mean, it would be a fairly large snake at this size. I don't know what a clafter is. It says 1 clafter in length. What the heck is a clafter? Historical unit of length. How long is a clafter? The span of an outstretched arm. So it's almost like a cubit. It would be twice a cubit, because a cubit's from your elbow to the middle of your finger. Okay, so yeah, we're looking at about 2 feet. So it was about 2 foot long and very stubby and thick. Interesting. I wonder if they were just seeing an unusual type of like serpent or snake that had a very broad head. But that wouldn't explain why someone else claimed they found one that was furry, so... There we go, another one. Snake with a cat's head, short feet. He added it was sometimes said to be hairy. And not just 2 or 4, but multiple limbs like a caterpillar. So there we have the multiple limbs. It does seem like the earlier accounts favored fewer limbs. Let's see. And then there's a certain shepherd in Gadman Valley that another person. This is Johann Rudolf Weiss, or I'm not sure how to say that. wrote accounts of various beings. And his description, he's including an account where a certain shepherd claimed that there were multiple types, that he knew what they were, and there was white ones, and then there was common black ones. And the other thing that's coming up again that I'm looking through with the different accounts here is that apparently they like to drink milk directly from the cow's udder. So that's interesting. I'm guessing maybe, I wonder if that comes from the cat part of it, because cats do like, they're not supposed to drink cow's milk, but they do like it. I don't think snakes do. Do snakes like milk? Let me see. Do snakes like milk? No. Okay. Common fallacy. Interesting. Okay. I was going to say, because I knew there's a milk snake, but apparently this is a common fallacy that snakes like to drink milk. I'm wondering if some of that, along with the cat-headedness, is what's coming up with that idea that they were stealing all the milk. It's interesting that they weren't killing the cows, though. Because in some legends, they're like murdering livestock, but it seems like they think the smaller ones were just stealing all the milk. Yeah. Okay. I didn't think they liked milk. I just wasn't sure. Okay. We almost have our base done. I think what I'm going to do is like a tuft of fur that kind of comes down the back a little bit, because I think that would look kind of cool. So, because some of the legends are saying it's scaly, some of the legends are saying it's furry, so we're going to do both. Okay. One thing that will be nice when summer comes around is it won't be nearly as hard to work with this clay. You can see how it's cracking and breaking. The colder it is and the drier it is, the more it does that, which makes it incredibly hard to work with. It's much easier in the summer. But my house is so dry right now. It's been consistently under 20% humidity. So it's not helping this at all. All right, since it did say a bit of a wide head, I think we should add clay to each side here. While I was looking these up, I noticed there are a lot of both new and older guides to mythology, and I should really try to grab some of them. The only thing about some of the older ones, it depends on how many accounts they compiled, because some of the older ones, it's like, oh, they only talk to a very few number, a small number of people. But I think it would really help because it would give me some stuff to read, which would be very fun. But they tend to be regional. I also want to do some other types of mythology from different countries because, like, I don't know much about, Russian folklore or places like India, or I don't think I've done any from China and Korea and Japan do tend to all have similar legends. They have some unique ones between them. But I started noticing because I was looking at Korean mythology when I was trying to decide what to do. They have some similarities, but it's like they have similar ideas that developed separately. So I found like a creature that was similar to the Baku in Korean mythology. It was a little different, but it had some similar traits and appearance. Similarly, I think the Baku actually started in China. So I've done Asian mythology before. I'm thinking that, and I haven't looked at any like African mythology. That would probably be fun too, because I know very little about that. So I'd probably have to spend a little more time researching, because I tend to, I like a lot of European, particularly like Celtic and Irish mythology, and I like a lot of Japanese mythology. But it'd be fun to expand a little, because there's a lot of interesting stories around the world, and I'd like to look it over. It's sometimes harder to find less popular creatures, and then I don't know, like with this one, I don't know how accurate I'm being. There is at least a decent amount of accounts, so we can read those more in depth next week. But sometimes I worry because if you can only find one or two little wiki pages made by different people, I always wonder how accurate they are, especially if they don't cite all their sources. And I should also spend more time researching than I do. If it's a very like important cultural thing, I try to spend a lot of time on it because I do like to be accurate, or at least as much as I can be. But I don't always have the time. All right. Now let's see. Where are the eyes? All right. So for a cat, the eyes would be very central. For a snake, they'd be on the side. So let's see. Kind of go in between. We'll do it here. And okay, a little bit bigger. Oops. Only thing about the cat eyes is you really do have to get the placement right, or it looks weird. Okay. To add more clay back here. To plump it up a little bit and make it look correct. All right. Now let me pull up a reference photo of cats, because even though I have cats all over my house, I still cannot do an accurate cat without looking at it. Okay. Shape it correctly here. So I'm going to see if I can kind of make it a slightly reptilian head shape. Because we want to kind of do a cross between the two. Oh, and I don't want to leave the eyes this open. They're way too open. They need to be closed more. So we'll add quick little eyelids here. Or lids of some sort. There we go. There we go. Now let's add a lid to this eye. He looks funny with just the one eye with the lid on it. Okay. We'll put that over here. Curve it slightly. Okay. Now it's looking very cute right now. This is kind of the moment I have to decide. Do I want this to look adorable or do I want it... I mean, it's cat-like, so I could make it look cute. I do tend to do that quite a bit. Alright. Getting a little bit more of a cat-like features there. Alright, so then we will add the nose. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can make this... We're going to put lids on the lower eyes now. I should probably do the front legs just so that I don't have to keep holding this up. Make life a little bit easier. Whenever I do eyelids, I'm just rolling out a little piece of clay and then I flatten it. It works. It's pretty effective. It's very simple, but it works very well. There we go. We got a little bit of the cuteness look away, but it's still very much a sculpture by me. All right. Okay. All right. I did see one thing that said something about a forked tongue, but I only saw that once. So I don't know if I should go that route or not. Let's see, very flat here. There we go. Alright, so the basic head done. It's a little... Here, let me fix... The head is a little bit lopsided. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna lay this back like that. We're gonna make at least the beginning of the leg so that he can prop himself up and not fall over while we're working on him. Okay. Okay. Gonna shape the legs a bit. Alright. Let's attach the arms. Okay. All right. We have the beginning of the legs there. I'm gonna obviously add paws to it, but let me think. We could go ahead and do the ears. I kind of wonder if I should do like cat ears, but like frilled a little bit. So that it reminds me of like, there's a lizard that's frilled. Hold on. Yeah, so like cat ears, but with a little bit of like the frilled lizard kind of look. Hmm. So we do, let me think here. A pointed ear. Yeah, kind of like that shape. Okay. This a little bit. Did I do this upside? I think I did it the wrong way. Okay, yeah, I did it the wrong way. Hold on. Okay. We have cat ears now. But let's do it like that so you can see we added ridges to it. Okay, and then we'll take this one. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, and 4. Alright, I'm gonna cut a little bit off because it's a little too large. Okay. Alright, I'll attach it on the back now. Apologize that I didn't have as much to say about this one. I genuinely did not have time to do all the research that I wanted to. And I have days where I'm just quieter. I feel like I should be rambling endlessly about something right now, but I do not have a topic, so... Alright, so we're doing the frilled lizard look, but with kitty cat ears. And I am gonna poke a hole for the ear. Alright. Alright, let me check. I'm gonna see the photo again from the print. The art print that was on the wiki page. Hmm. Where was it? Aha. Yeah, so they had tufts of fur coming down the forehead. So, let me start to do a little bit of that. Yeah, because I want to see if I can do a little bit of a ridge of fur. Alright, so we're going to tuft of fur kind of down the nose and the forehead, because it looks like... Can't tell if they're spikes or fur, but the print cut that I used for the thumbnail has something along those lines. So, we'll go with that. Alright. Attach these real quick here. Then we'll do a fur pattern on them. Alright. The fur pattern here. Go. Okay. We're gonna do a little bit of a fur pattern like around the eyes. And I don't like that texture roller. Here we go. This one's got a little bit more of an alligator texture. And let me do... I'm thinking fangs would be a good idea as well. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that texture roller. This one's decent. But not quite enough for what I want to do. Oh. Now the question is, do we add scales to it or do we subtract by like carving? I mean, I will say adding tends to look cooler, but it's also extremely time consuming. And a little bit less precise depending on how I do it. I guess I could go ahead and do like the chest, because I want to do the chest like the lizard or snake like layered look, because I've done that. I've done that quite a few times. It usually looks good. So start on that while I am thinking about how to do the scales. I thought I had another texture roller that looked very scaly, but I'm not sure. And if I could also do something like that, but that's too uniform. That might work. We'll see. Pull this out a little bit thinner. Okay. Okay. I didn't make quite enough, so I'm gonna need a couple more, but you can see what I'm doing there. Grab all these random little clay pieces that are sticking to everything. Okay, we're gonna roll this out. Okay. Okay. Now I'm trying to think of how to do the join at the neck for this. Because obviously that doesn't look too good like that. Chest looks cool now, but figure out how to blend the top of this scale pattern into the neck. We could do a little bit of fur. That would work. A little bit of... Or we could just do lines. Hold on. That's not the right one. Let's try this one. Yeah, that might be more interesting, just doing faint little ridged lines. So we keep that snake-like appearance. The head is very cat-like right now. So if anything, I need to tone down the cat-likeness. Because we need it to be a cross of the two. At least I feel like it needs to be a cross of the two. I do think I'm gonna do another layer here, because it doesn't quite look right to me. Not quite right. Here we go. We can see that looking a little better there. Now, let me see. I think what I'll do is it's kind of like a little bit of a flap that hides the edge of where I did the what's the word I'm looking for? The line pattern for the underneath the neck. Let's see, it's not long enough. Yes. Oh, did I knock his tooth off? I did. I didn't. Tooth. Where'd his tooth go? He is toothless. Oh, there it is. I did not mean to make him toothless. That is a different dragon altogether. All right. Actually, let me actually carve these like scales to a degree. There we go. We have some scaly patterns, if you can see. See a little bit of it there. Okay. We go. So it's like some layered scales there. A little bit of the texture roller and a little bit of hitting this with a paintbrush. I think we can achieve a fainter scaly texture. Okay. All right. This is what we have for the head so far. There we go. Now we just need to do the paws. And I'm going to have... I'm trying to think if I should have the claws out. Maybe not. We'll see. Forgot I had snacks up here. I have pulled this down. Here we go. Let's put it back to the center. I wonder, I am thinking it would be nice if I could get like a custom printed silk, you know, silicone mat to work on. That'd be really cool. But I don't know. I don't know where to get that. I'd have to look. That would be nice. Oops, I made this one a little bigger. So I'm gonna go more with the pod interpretation rather than the clawed. But I guess we could mark the claws on here as well. Just if it depends on how cat-like it is, because cat's claws don't stick out unless they want them to. Or if they're silly and they get stuck on things. Mine do that all the time. They get their paws stuck on things and then they look at me like, oh no, help. The funny part is I think they kind of do it for attention because if I don't help them, they somehow magically unstick themselves really easily. So I've learned to kind of watch and see if they actually need my help. Because if I don't, then they'll do it all the time just to get me to pick them up and be like, oh, did you get stuck? It's so bad. They're such mischievous little things. But yeah, half the time, if I just look at them, I'm like, you're fine. You can get that yourself. Then they just magically go, oh yeah, I can. They suddenly don't need my help anymore. Okay. No, I can just do 3. That's fine. All right. Okay. Okay. Almost. Almost there. I could do the same thing that I did with the badger where I use toothpicks for the claws. Or all right, now let's use clay and see how this goes. Yeah, the problem with the claws is they break so easy. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. If I do that, they have to be a lot thicker. Or they're just gonna break right off. Alright, so now, where did my texture roller go that I liked? Liked this one. I think this is the same texture roller that I used on on my snake guy, my snake oil salesman that was a snake. It does create a nice texture. It's just a shame you can't really see it on the camera. It's not dark enough for that. Not dark enough, not deep enough. Doesn't create a deep enough pattern for that. Can't think of the proper word at the moment. Okay. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna do some light, like little tearaway scales down the back, just to make this a bit more visually interesting and appealing. Because if not, it's just gonna be a solid, you know, solid, simple snake, and I don't want to do that. That's boring. I want there to be more interesting details. Okay. This is what we have so far. Oh, upside down. I thought I blended you together. Apparently I didn't. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple on the shoulders. And to do this, I just rip off little pieces of clay and then I smash them into the sculpture, and then you end up with a slightly textured look like that. So we're gonna turn him this way so I can work on his shoulder. The trick is to make sure they're different sizes and shapes. That way they look they don't look uniform, because that's one of the biggest things with when you're doing clay, is that you kind of don't want uniformity in a lot of things. Some things, like, you know, obviously the sides of a face of something needs to be fairly uniform, although if you look, it's not usually perfectly uniform. That's why you can do those goofy things where people will they'll paste together both halves of somebody's face, so like both the right halves or both the left halves, and it looks really weird because our faces aren't actually uniform. And most of the time in art, if something's too uniform, it looks weird. But if it's too far not uniform, it also looks weird. So it's like there's a happy medium in there somewhere. Okay, so we have little bits of scaling on the shoulders now. Now we're going to do it on the back. Okay. And then once we get this part finished, I think we'll be done. I don't think there's anything else that I need to do. I noticed I didn't see too much about coloration. I believe there's only one story that mentioned them being predominantly gray, black, or white. So I may have a great deal of freedom with the color. I will, however, find those accounts that they were basing stuff off of and see if they have more guidance as to the exact coloration. I think one of them did say brown, but that's really all I have to go on. So I usually do larger pieces, then I'll do a bunch of smaller ones on the side. I think I did this for the Snallygaster and for a couple other things that I've done. It works. It works. And then around it I can also do the patterns, and that helps me blend it together a bit more. So you can see where we're going with this. Alright, I want to add a couple smaller ones in here. I have done a full, like, dragon head that was not 3D, it was a flat piece on top of box like this before, and I did the scale pattern on the entire thing. It looked cool, but boy was it time consuming. And then I ended up not even using the box for anything, and yeah. I usually like to cheat and just find other ways to do decently convincing scale patterns. Because this one is kind of a pain. Doing it a little bit on the back, though, is nice. Alright, do a bit more this way. I might do a little bit of this scaly ruffle around the back of the neck too, because I kind of like the way that looks. I think I think it adds a decent amount of texture to it in a way that looks nice. So we may do that here. I don't like the way the back of the neck is looking. All right. All right. All right. Now let me see. Can do a little bit of that ruffled type scale effect on the back here. Okay. I'm gonna add some more scaly pieces up around to kind of blend this in a little better. All right. Here we go. There we have our Tatzelwurm. The cat-like head, the paws, 2 front legs. We did that in the back. Alright, so I think we are done with this one. Only thing I need to do is this. But if you watch this video, I do greatly appreciate it. I do take suggestions, so if there's anything you'd like to see me sculpt, let me know. Pretty much anything that I'm vaguely familiar with, or at least could look up, you know, and understand, I will probably do. I do a lot of cryptids, a lot of mythology stuff. I do fan art if I know the media that it comes from, at least decently well enough that I could talk about whatever it is that I'm making. But yeah, if you like this video, I greatly appreciate it. If you watched it, thank you so much. I will be back next week and we will be painting our little worm guy here, our little worm. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night.